Hello, I am Barendipitous, and I would like to take this time to thoroughly explain what's been going on with Brawlhalla Underworld. So, um, you have probably seen this video is quite lengthy, and I'm sorry to say that there probably won't be anything special for you to see in this video except for me just here talking in my workspace. There won't be any special editing or graphics or anything. This is just me with a script and my own thoughts that I have written and prepared to for this. So you are welcome to do something else while listening to this, like you would for a podcast or a radio station or something. So, but yeah. I first wish to apologize for breaking the promise I made in the production update video back in October of 2020. In it, I said that I would have more to share to the public about a month later, which would have been around Thanksgiving of 2020. Of course, the holiday came and went with no such public update. I was still working on this project in the meantime, but I don't have much of an excuse for this breach in my word other than either forgetting or never getting around to it. So I hope you can forgive me for my negligence both on this YouTube channel and on the project's social media channels these past few months. Maybe what I say in the rest of this video will shed more light on this for you. I'll get right to the point, and I'll give a thorough explanation afterwards. It really pains me to say this, but I have determined, after a lot of time and thought and examination, that it is time to sunset this project. In other words, I am going to reluctantly retire this audio drama, Brawlhalla Underworld. Not a day goes by that I don't think about Brawlhalla Underworld, seriously, also known as BHU for short. I've been thinking for a while about what the cast, the crew, and I have done so far, and where we are now, and what it might take to press forward. Although we've made some very good progress in our first 10 episodes these past couple of months, it has been a real struggle to gather the material we need to finish the last few episodes of the first season, let alone getting things together for a second one or anything beyond that. Before I tell you exactly what will be happening with BHU in the future, I'd like to explain how the project started and perhaps make it clear how things turned out this way. I believe context is very important for something like this, and I want to provide that before moving forward, and that is why this is such a long video. I want to make sure that I take the time to make everything clear. Think of this as sort of my version of a video twit longer, I guess. I taking things very seriously and very just laying it all out as honestly and as clearly as I possibly can, and as thoroughly as I possibly can. So this whole thing started on March 30th of 2020 when an artist on Twitter named Akiko-sama posted drawings of some Brawlhalla legends redesigned in a sort of mafia alternate universe. She conceptualized Orion, Dusk, Sidra, Val, Lord Vrax, Petra, and Volkov as crime bosses. She imagined how other characters like Cassidy or Zariel would be like in a police force in that universe. She also drew her favorite Brawlhalla pairing, her favorite Brawlhalla ship, Mirage and Orion, in all the glitz, glamour, and glory of a J.C. Leyendecker painting. When I saw these images, I was quite inspired by them. My mind started going crazy with the possibilities of this alternative version of Brawlhalla and the legends we know and love from my favorite fighting game. I started thinking about, how the Brawlhalla legends would be and interact in a sort of darker, much more mysterious, urban version of Brawlhalla. Shortly thereafter, I was spontaneously invited to a private group chat on Discord with Akiko, Pat Hyena, and Cyan Petra to talk about which Brawlhalla legends would be in whose gang. We organized all the legends released up to that point into various gangs and factions. I believe Akiko was in the early stages of planning some sort of graphic novel set in this Mafia alternate universe, or Mafia AU for short. That was a fun meeting, and I'm glad I was able to assist with my Brawlhalla lore knowledge to inform the process. However, it wasn't long before Akiko decided she had grown tired of being active in the Brawlhalla community and decided to step away from the fandom to pursue other interests. To this day, she makes fantastic artwork about the characters she loves, especially Mortal Kombat and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure characters. I think I've seen more Mortal Kombat from her recently, but anyway, she's been the one. She's also been the one responsible for the image I use for my Brawlhalla for my Twitter profile picture, or at least the one that I've been using for the longest time. When I realized Akiko might not do anything with her Mafia AU concept, I messaged her directly on Twitter to ask if I could have her permission to borrow the concept myself. I am not an artist, but I felt confident in my writing and storytelling ability. Plus, I felt I had some basic audio editing experience and could make some sort of audio drama, since at the time I was already trying to make an audio drama version of a webcomic I loved, Cursed Princess Club. I also felt I had the proper connections within the Brawlhalla community to actually make this work. As Serendipitous, I know a lot of people, a lot of well-known people in the Brawlhalla community. Akiko, thankfully and very graciously, agreed to let me use her Mafia AU concept, and I started working on a possible story to tell. Through the months of April and May, I mainly worked privately with Cyan Petra and a bit with Pat Hyena on crafting the story. Knowing that so many people would love a story mode for Brawlhalla, I thought this Mafia AU thing could be the next best thing. I was excited about making a crime drama with a definite film noir flavor, like the radio dramas of old, when radio was people's main form of entertainment in America back in like the 40s or something like that. As I crafted and wrote the story, Cyan started on a few sketches. Eventually, I felt we needed to start recruiting some voice actors. I also wanted to utilize the vast amount of fan artists in the Brawlhalla community to make some art pieces to supplement the audio story. I completely wrote the script for 10 episodes and adjusted a few things here and there according to feedback as time went on. Pat Hyena and others have been especially helpful in giving their feedback on it. So, as summer 2020 approached, I created the BHU server in Discord and started contacting other people that I knew. I announced auditions for various voice acting roles and got a lot of responses. All along the way, I tried to strike a good balance between making a quality production, or quality enough fan production, and keeping it fun for everyone. As more and more people came on board, the excitement and activity and camaraderie within the BHU server grew. From June to September, the server was thriving, with over 60 people at a level far beyond anything I imagined. We were all so very thrilled to share what we were working on with the Brawlhalla community, and I was doing all I could to make sure it was a safe and fun working environment for everyone there. Admittedly, I was still quite inexperienced in leading a production like this, and there are definitely things I could have done differently. For example, instead of trying to tackle all the sound editing and mixing myself, I should have asked for help much earlier than I actually did. I also believe I should have waited to start releasing episodes until all 10 episodes of the planned first season were done. I also could have done a much better job overall of delegating tasks to other people who were willing and able to help. I didn't quite understand my limits as a leader at that time. I just couldn't wait to start getting some marketing materials put together and start showing the public what we were working on. There were a handful of people who took up control of various social media accounts for the project, and they helped build publicity and hype, especially as we approached the release date of our first episode on October 2nd, 2020. We even had some sort of reveal week of our own, inspired by the Brawlhalla Battle Pass reveal weeks. It was a lot of fun. People in the project revealed concept art, voice acting videos, and even a couple of gorgeous cosplays by Mirage and Saturn. I also recorded a series of cast and crew interviews that I was hoping to have released on YouTube on a regular basis. The YouTube premiere of that first episode came and went with pretty good success, thousands of views. A few silly memes about Baron Walk and Corsolix cropped up on various corners of Brawlhalla Twitter for a bit. Overall, I was very, very happy with its initial reception. This project was turning out exactly as I was hoping, and I had high hopes for the rest of the project. Episodes 2 and 3 released on October 9th and 16th respectively, with noticeably less viewership, of course, but, I still wasn't entirely worried. Crime drama and film noir, as a genre, they tend to go at a slower narrative pace than any action film or show. there were a lot of things in the first 3 episodes that I was hoping would set things up for what would happen on later episodes. I had quite a few things, like quite a few pieces that I was starting to put in place in those first 3 episodes that would, I hope, pay off in the later episodes. I was also trying to solidify my narrative plans for a second and third, maybe even fourth season, but no more than that, with another writer at the time, Captain Moneybags. I think it was later in October, after episode 3 premiered on YouTube, that I noticed things had begun to change about the project and within the project. You see, in spite of how I felt about Brawlhalla Underworld, there were several people who came to me and told me that they thought the show was downright terrible. Their criticisms mentioned that they couldn't understand what was going on in the plot. The videos themselves were bad because there wasn't much to actually look at while things developed slowly. The quality and the editing of the audio was awful, and more. They said a few other things as well. I appreciated the feedback. I really did. It is good to acknowledge all forms of criticism as long as they are given with honest intent, and I felt that way about these comments to me. I looked at them, I seriously thought about them, and I will admit that while I felt that some of their criticisms were quite valid, some other criticisms were, I think, simply a result of expecting something from an audio drama that the medium just couldn't deliver the way that they were expecting. Almost all audio dramas on YouTube have only one image showing for the entire episode or show. The fact that we were trying to have about 5 art pieces per episode was quite an achievement by comparison. Also, while I probably should have included subtitles in the video long ago, and I hope to sometime in the near future, the story was meant to develop slowly as people and places and concepts got introduced. It's the drama, not the action. It's the dialogue, not like, the fight scenes or anything, or exciting fast-paced action that translates better in an audio format. I did understand that the audio quality complaints, though. I was foolishly trying to do all of that myself, and I can see why people would say that the audio quality and the audio editing was terrible, because that's not something I was very used to. But I will say those criticisms came largely from outside the project, from people who were not directly involved in the project itself, from a small handful of people who saw the episodes and had different expectations for them. That was fine and quite understandable, I thought. I knew that I and the entire BHU crew were trying something vastly different from what literally anyone else in the Brawlhalla community had ever tried to do, as far as I know. While most creators in the community were going for more action-style content, more humor, more quick sort of things, we were going in a completely new and different direction with our creation. I think it was what came to me after the outside criticism that really changed things. The criticism from within the project. I don't know how long these complaints were brewing. I have some idea, but maybe they were partially in response to what other people outside the project were saying. Maybe there were people within the project who had vastly different expectations for the project itself, and I wasn't insightful enough as a leader to pick up on it sooner. Regardless of how it happened, I became informed one day of conversations happening between a few of the crew members and voice actors. They were discussing things about the show and about how I was leading ways I was leading the production that they were not satisfied with. I think some were even thinking of leaving the project entirely. I did not realize some people felt this way until later in the same day these conversations happened, when 1 or 2 of those people started telling me in a general channel in the server that these talks were happening. And that's fine. As much as these people respected and appreciated me, they had issues with how I was running things. Legitimate issues, I think. They didn't think the episodes that we were releasing were particularly good. They wanted the project to be held at a higher standard of quality than I was originally imagining or intending. I thought all these criticisms were quite valid. I think I shared all of this in the previous production update. It was a bit hard for me to hear all these things from people who were within the project and had been working with me on this for several months, but that alone wasn't what really got to me. What bothered me the most was knowing that some people were thinking of leaving without telling me until after the fact. I never realized my lack of leadership had become so severe that some people were thinking about that. It never occurred to me that I guess people would think that I couldn't be trusted with their honest feelings about the project. I thought I tried my best to make it clear that they could tell me exactly how they felt and that I would consider their suggestions and criticisms, but then again, thinking back on it, there were a few times when criticisms would be given to me privately, and I would consider them, I would listen, but I would ultimately decide and think that it wasn't as big a deal as they thought it was. It was a clash of expectations, I think, when it really comes down to it. A division of visions and hopes for the BHU project. This wasn't the case for everyone in BHU, by the way, but it was the case for enough people who are very active in the server for it to really call my attention. This was when I decided to move past the hard feelings and try to work smarter. I offered higher leadership positions to some of the people who had offered their honest feedback. I delegated more tasks to more people. I tried to remove responsibilities for myself so that I wasn't playing the part of director and producer and marketing strategist and production manager and administrator and so forth. I tried to only keep the roles of producer and administrator and give all the other duties to others. I was trying to give people autonomy by saying, here's the role, here's generally what your role entails, now go do it, and I won't nag you or bug you about it, essentially. And this is also the point in which I made that production update video at the end of October 2020. I felt this reorganization is just what the project needed, and that the project would progress far more smoothly with better quality, and would be more a product of the group rather than my project, something that the whole group can be proud of. So, the weeks went by, and a couple of months went by. I felt good about the organizational changes I made, but however, there were 3 major factors that hit the server all at once that didn't make it easy to get right back to work on the project after all these organizational changes. First, November and December are holiday months that for many parts of the world, especially in America. I had almost no real holiday plans at all, especially thanks to the pandemic. But other people would often be busy with family or travel plans for Thanksgiving, Christmas, and other holidays. 2. November and December are also the times when a school semester starts to wrap up for many people, and that means final exams and final projects. I was completely done with school by that point. I graduated with my master's degree. I didn't have to worry about that. But almost everyone else in the project had school to worry about. This certainly contributed to the decrease in activity in the BHU server that we had compared to what we had in the summer when people had more time. And 3, I've seen it happen in a number of other servers. People's typical hangout spots on Discord change all the time. Over the summer, the BHU server was the place to hang out for a lot of people in the project. As time went on, however, other servers and other meeting places were made by certain friend groups. I know, for example, one group may have their own Dungeons & Dragons server separate from the project. Others created their own servers where they could freely hang out with their own selected group of friends and acquaintances. There could have been other factors that led to a sharp decrease in server activity, but these 3 are the main ones that I can think of. It became difficult to follow up with people about their various roles in the project. Weeks would go by without much progress, if any at all. By January, the only thing that was making consistent progress was, thankfully, the most important aspect of the audio drama, the audio. I had an audio engineer, Darth Mimi, someone who knew what he was doing, help with the mixing of the next few episodes. And the difference in quality was incredible. I was a fool, an absolute stupid fool for not asking for more of this help much, much sooner. We had near weekly meetings over Zoom to go over the audio of each episode, and we were making great progress. We hit a roadblock, however, when we reached the last few episodes of Season 1. There were several lines we hadn't gotten back from the voice actors. To be fair, a couple of them had good, legitimate excuses, such as losing their voice due to sickness, or having tumultuous living conditions, or just having issues with internet or mics or whatever. I followed up with as many of the voice actors as I could. And it was definitely a struggle. And I want to make it clear, though, absolutely clear, I have no hard feelings towards anyone at all. Within the project, I've said from the very, very beginning that people come before projects. People's comforts, people's own higher priorities and well-being come before the well-being of Brawlhalla Underworld. If someone felt they needed to leave the project for one reason or another, I would always happily respect their decisions. There were a small handful of times during these past few months in which someone would contact me privately and say they were no longer interested in the project or had lost interest in Brawlhalla in general, or wanted to separate themselves from Brawlhalla Underworld for other personal reasons. However, there were also cases in which I didn't realize that someone had left until much later after the fact. And it was very clear that they didn't really have much passion or interest in the project left. And they felt it was better to just kind of leave, essentially. It was last December or January that when I started to suspect that more and more people were just seriously losing interest or passion for the BHU project. At the beginning of February 2021, I decided I would give it one last honest try. During the month of February 2021, I would do what I could to keep things moving, to see how people felt about it and so forth. I made near weekly update announcements in the server, sharing my thoughts about the progress and state of the project and what I would do in different scenarios. The fact that I'm releasing this video here on this channel is evidence that I've determined with certainty that the effort it would take to continue the project as it is now would be far more trouble and far more of a burden than perhaps it might be worth. Maybe I could bring in voice actors and artists to fill in for those who had lost interest. But if I did that, I don't know what would stop history from repeating itself. I just don't think anyone in the project really understood how long and ambitious it would be. I was in it for the long haul, but I'm also a grown married man out of school with a lot of extra time on his hands because I have a part-time job. And so that allowed me to be able to dedicate time and effort and energy and resources into this. Everyone else in the project, however, with very few expectations, was a high school or college student with far more important priorities, as well as other interests and ambitions that take up their time, attention, and energy. This is the story of the production of Brawlhalla Underworld, from start to present. It's not that I've stopped caring at all for BHU, far from it in fact. It's just that the lack of availability or interest from many others in the project has noticeably affected my ability to complete this as the project's director and manager. And at the end of the day, I'd prefer to let the project end on a positive note, to tie the loose ends together nicely in a beautiful package that can be presented to the internet, to the public, that says, this is what we've done. This is what we were striving for. We are proud of what we were able to accomplish together. Here it is. Enjoy. As opposed to letting it drag on lethargically like it seems to have done in the past few months. At its current state, it is clear to me that this project is starting to become more of a burden than a blessing, even to myself. So, having said all of that, what is the plan for BHU moving forward, you may ask? Well, I want to make sure all that the hard work that everyone has put into this, all of the incredible art, all of the talented voice acting, all of the challenging editing, the various plot and script notes, and etc., I want to make sure all of that is put on display for people to see and appreciate and admire. So here's what I'm going to do. On my Brawlhalla lore site, which is brawlhallalore.blogspot.com, link will be in the description below. If you go to that website, you may notice a category in the sidebar, on the right-hand sidebar, labeled Fanons and AUs. So a category for fan canons and alternate universes in Brawlhalla. When you click on that, you'll be taken to a page that will lead to basically all the Brawlhalla Underworld resources as a fan-made Mafia AU. If you click on the Brawlhalla Underworld link there, you will be taken to a page that will have all of the links and resources you need to explore all of the concepts, ideas, and plot lines we had for this project. So again, brawlhallaunderworld.blogspot.com, link in the description below. In the fanon/AU page, click on Brawlhalla Underworld, and there you will be taken to all of that. My intention is that it will be like a museum that shows what we hope to accomplish and the impressive amount of work that we were able to achieve. All artwork and other pieces will be credited to their original creators, of course. All relevant scripts and other documents will be linked there. All art pieces will be on display there, like relative to the project itself. All videos made for the project, including episodes completed or partially done, as well as all cast and crew interviews, will be put onto this YouTube channel. And the channel's link will also be on that lore site as well. The aim for this will be to have absolutely everything you need to know about the creative resources the project had up to this point, to have it up on display for everyone to see and admire like a museum gallery. It is my goal to make sure, it is my goal to have that my script here. It is my goal to have that Brawlhalla Underworld page on my lore site 100% complete by March 30th, 2021. Exactly 1 year after the day I started thinking about doing this project in the first place. The exact anniversary that Akiko-sama posted her initial art concepts that inspired me to do this in the first place. I can think of no better way to retire this ambitious, well-intentioned, wonderful project with all the dignity that it and the people involved in it deserves. Now, I recognize that there is a possibility that someone at some time in the future may want to take all of this BHU material and either try to continue where we left off or to use it to make something better, to make something else, or whatever. So I'd like to take a moment to make a few things clear regarding the copyright and intellectual property status of the project and its materials. First, as I said before, all individual pieces are the intellectual property of their creators. The artists are the owners of the art pieces and the art concepts that they made. The music composers own the music that they made. I own the rights to the scripts that I wrote, and so on and so forth for every piece of creative media. If you wish to directly use or copy any piece from Brawlhalla Underworld, you will need to ask permission from that specific piece's creator. If you want to use the general concepts of the plot or setting of Brawlhalla Underworld, understand that the original Mafia AU setting ultimately belongs to Akiko-sama, while the plot and the scripts, specifically of the audio drama of Brawlhalla Underworld, belong to me and to the project writers. So other designs and art pieces belong to their creators, of course. So to make it clear, this specific Mafia AU, Akiko-sama is the original creator of it. If you're looking at something specific to the Brawlhalla Underworld project, whether it be something specific in the plot or something like that, or the scripts of it, that is like, and if it is not something that was created by somebody else, like an art piece or whatever, that would be from me. I'm the one who created like the general story and things like that. So hopefully that is clear. If you have questions about any of that, let me know, and I will make things more clear. And because I want to, intellectual property is something that I care a lot about, something that I've done some research about. I feel I'm a bit more knowledgeable than the average person about, and so feel free to ask me any questions you have about it and what might or might not be respectful to the intellectual property rights of the creators involved in BHU. So that's that. Before I conclude this whole video, I want to thank everyone who was directly involved with BHU. I want to thank everyone individually. I started this project, myself. I was inspired by Akiko-sama. I started this project, but it's all of you who are in that server who made it what it is today. And it honestly, even how it is today, in its technically incomplete state, it is beyond anything that I ever hoped or imagined it would be. A lot of you played multiple roles, but I'm going to go over each group of roles to keep my gratitude organized, I guess. But here we go. I'm going to start with the magnificent artists. Thank you to Akiko-sama for your inspiring designs and concepts that began this whole crazy and ridiculous endeavor, and for allowing me to try your concept in an entirely new way from its original intent. To Anonymous Pie for your Rayman concept. To Aster for the scenes you've done for the project. To Bakuhatsu for the beautifully spectacular multi-character piece you've done that was used at the BHU Discord server's banner for a time. To Buktichki for your phenomenal Petra designs. To CJ for the scenes that you've done. To Cizerna for your awesome Asuri and Volcom designs. To Cosmini for your Ada, Kor, Linfei, Thatch, Thor, and Olgrim designs, as well as for the scenes you've done. To Cyan Petra for your early sketches and your Queen Nai design, and your work on the scenes. To Davon for your Hattori and Sentinel designs. For the scene that you made, and for all the incredible things you were able to accomplish as our main art lead for BHU. And also for your great story suggestions. Davon, you have done more for Brawlhalla Underworld and for me than you realize. Thank you to Foolish for her Onyx concept sketch that proved to be a great breakthrough in the challenge to depict Onyx in this story. I am also grateful for the immense amount of support and enthusiasm that you've had for the project up to the very end. Thank you. To Hyena for your Azoth, Baraza, and Lord Vrax designs, for being our resident Vrax expert, for your support and direction and involvement from the very start. There are a lot of differences between us, of course, but I cannot deny that you and I have accomplished a great deal together in this project. Thank you to Jubs for your Ragnir design and for being willing to help with supporting this project on TikTok. To Labruski for your Isaiah concept, for your take on Jubs' Ragnir design and for the scenes you've done, as well as for the music that you've made as well. Well, actually, I'll get to that in a bit. I hope you're doing well, Labruski. To Lieutenant Lore for your Mordex and Taros design, and for all the wonderfully adorable and hilarious fan art you've made of Baron and of Hyena and of them both. To Maria for your fabulous Jala, Mirage, and Sidra designs and for your work on a scene. To Pixel for the scene you've worked on. To Kier for your Lechinult design. To the eminent Saturn for your Bryn, Ember, and Scarlet designs, for the scene you've made, and for making the BHU logo and banner. For your cosplay for the BHU Reveal Week, and so much more that you've given to the project. You were another person who gave so much more than I could have ever expected. To Sushi, who wasn't directly involved with BHU, but Sushi, you gave permission to take inspiration from an unmasked Orion concept of yours. To Smoky Stitched for the scenes you've done. To Tataya Furkim for your Bodvar, Cassidy, Dusk, Fate, and Lucian designs. For the unmasked Orion designs inspired by Sushi's work, and for the scenes you've made. To Tolsquish, or also known as Squishy, who was at one point the most prolific artist in the project. For your Caspian, Cross, Diana, Jaehyun, Koji, Nyx, and Sir Roland designs. For your interpretation of Foolish's Onyx concept. And for the scenes you've made, and for helping with the Mino. I am, like, other artists of course have done a lot, but you, Tolsquish, have done probably the most out of any artist, and I have been incredibly impressed by that. And I hope you are well in all of your endeavors. We had a couple of music composers on the project, and I want to say thank you to Cat Foodinator for your excellent music for the credits, to Labruski for your wonderful Twilight Grove music that has been used for episode openings, and for the other musical pieces that you offered for use in the project. Of course, I can never forget the voice actors. Thank you to A Knight's Gambit for your excellently casual take on Azoth and for being a great friend in the project. To An Anonymous Pie for your sassy take on Sidra. To Blueskis for being our Zariel. To Buktichki for being the literal embodiment of Petra. I cannot imagine Petra being voiced by anyone other than you. To Darth Mimi, not only for being our Zol and announcer, but especially for your undying support and tireless work on the audio editing and mastering of the episodes beyond the first 3, which I foolishly tried to do on my own. To Defensive for being an awesome Bodvar, and also a great fellow Brawlhalla partner as well, although that's not directly tied with Brawlhalla Underworld. To Doe for being a phenomenal Dusk. You joke about your voice being your defining trait, but I'd also say that your intentional delivery of Dusk was a tremendous asset as well. Better than I ever thought possible. You are a tremendous Dusk and a great D&D player as well. To enter name 117 for being our pompous Sir Roland, to Farouk for being our Ragnir, to Foolish for all I mentioned before, on top of playing the part of Yumiko and especially Artemis, to Insanity, or also known as Insanity is Hope, for being the perfect hyena-approved voice for Lord Brax, to Jules, a person I know from outside the Brawlhalla fandom, for your willingness to try something different and for being, in my opinion, a particularly fantastic choice to voice Fate. To Katanic for being our Mordex and for the work you did to reach out to the other voice actors. To Mirage, or Mirage BH, not just for voicing our main lady Fatima Sabik, but also for the work you did for the project's Instagram and Twitter, for your video editing work, for being a good friend to those who need it. And most of all, being a good friend for those who need it, that's probably the most important thing. But also, thank you for being honest with me, especially at times when I was reluctant to listen. To Maya, for your flawless performance of our dapper, enigmatic Orion. To Pat Hyena for all I've mentioned before, and for voicing the one part you jokingly insist is the most important, Sam the limo driver in episode 2. Episode 2? Yeah, episode 2. To Puds for being our brilliant Brazilian Barraza, and just for being an awesome guy in general. To Royal Court Jester for being our Ember. To Sergeant Salty for being our Lechinault and our Lucian. To Saturn for your great performances as Diana and Bryn, and for your honestly impressive attempt at a take on Jala. To Schwerpy, who was great with Caspian because he wouldn't be at all that great for Scarlet. To Sir KFC for the great authentic performances you've given as our Sentinel. To Starry, who didn't expect to be cast as Cassidy, but you gave a great Wild West voice in spite of that, so thank you for that. To Stefanifro for being willing to be an awesome Koji, and it was too bad that we've never gotten to the second season in which we had planned lines for the role. To Tier 2 for being our Nyx. To Terrifice for being our strong and energetic Thor. To Tesriel, who didn't expect to be cast as Onyx, but gave a great performance of an admittedly tricky character in spite of the difficulty. To Tiger Gamer for your down-to-earth Ada and for your aloof Hattori. To Tilty for being a great voice for Volkov. To Zelko for your work as Cross, and for being a fellow appreciator and distributor of dad jokes. I really wish we could have been able to get into more exciting things that we had planned with your character later in the plot. Finally, in my thanks, there's a small team of writers. Thank you to Captain Moneybags, also known as Money as well. Thank you for your input, your honest criticism on some of my dumb plot ideas earlier, and for all that you've done in support of the project. Thank you to Crab and to Mordex, also known as Graph, for your willingness to work with Money on what was going to be the rest of the story in this production. I know I didn't give you a lot to do, and I hope you can understand why all of this happened the way it did. And I hope you know how much I respect you both, as well as Money, as fellow Brawlhalla lore nerds. Thank you. I am certain there are others that I have forgotten or have not mentioned here. Or there are probably things that I've forgotten to thank you guys for. And so here, to each of you, for the good things that you've done for the project, no matter how small, thank you. I'm sure for some, Brawlhalla Underworld is probably a disappointment. Some may even call the project an outright failure. But even though I have both succeeded and failed as a director and a producer, I would not call BHU a failure, and I'll tell you why. For as long as it lasted, it was wonderful. It made me happy, and I know it made a number of other people happy. Friendships and relationships began or were strengthened because of Brawlhalla Underworld. People's networks within the Brawlhalla community expanded. Talent was improved and refined. I do not hesitate to say that BHU, as a project, did far, far more good than I ever thought possible. I've also learned so much about audio productions thanks to this project. I mentioned before that before BHU, I tried doing an audio drama version of a webcomic that I liked. That never went anywhere because I was doing everything myself and I was in way over my head with that. BHU, on the other hand, because it was has gone so much further than that previous fizzled attempt. The lessons I've learned and the experience I've gained from these two audio drama projects have helped me to be completely successful in my third endeavor into the genre, Banner Media Studios' production of Almost Home, which I directed and wrote. I am getting better and better, and I am so grateful for BHU for its part in my personal creative journey. Then again, I think what made Almost Home successful was the fact that it was a much less ambitious production, first of all, and I was just a small part of the larger production team at the studio on Banner. So I was only a part of the production cycle as opposed to trying to lead the whole thing as the one at the top of the leadership ladder. If BHU accomplishes nothing else, it is clear to me that this project has brought people together. New relationships, new connections, a network of talent in the Brawlhalla community, all of that. If this has brought anyone any joy, or strengthened anyone as a person or creator in any way at any time, I will consider that a success. And it is certainly true for me. I really hope it is true for others. I truly believe that Brawlhalla Underworld, through its ups and downs of the project, has shaped me, at least, into a better person. I also believe that, in some small way, it has affected at least a small part of the Brawlhalla community at large for the better, in ways I could never imagine back in March 2020. I think there are some small ripples that started here in this project that will have subtle effects on a number of people for at least some time in the future. Perhaps me most of all. I've been at this for 40 minutes. Kind of figured. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this message. It is lengthy because I felt it had to be. I wanted to leave no question in anyone's mind what happened, or how I responded to it, and what will happen going forward. I also wanted this message to be my way of kind of telling myself that, in spite of everything, it will all be okay. To kind of reassure me that I can look in the mirror or at myself with his webcam and find assurance in the fact that, in spite of everything, I'm still here. And so are you. So, amidst some honest, understandable regret and disappointment, the thing I feel most of all, however, with all of this, is gratitude. Probably not much of a surprise, knowing me, huh? I feel gratitude for all of those who are inside the project that I've thanked earlier. I feel gratitude for those who watched the released episodes back in October, and for those who will explore what we've made once it does become posted by the end of March. Gratitude for you, the listener, just for listening, even with the noise in the background. With the official conclusion of BHU on March 30th, 2021, it will also conclude the quarter of completion that I set for myself when the new year started. After that point, the seasons of synergy will begin. I personally will go into the month of April and beyond with renewed dedication to be the best I can be and to put my all into my next worthy endeavors. To be the best Baron and the best person that I can be. I have, admittedly, ambitious ideas for future projects and endeavors. And I don't know how successful they will be. But at the very least, right now, I have a much, much better understanding of my limits and my capabilities. And perhaps that will make all the difference. Thank you again for listening. Make it a great day. And until next time, all the best.